my computer, but I can have the link up this afternoon. Okay, well, I'm gonna respect your time. It's 3:01. I'm gonna get started. So prompt engineering for all. So it's become kind of like more than just a hobby for me now. It's become like definitely a fascination where it's working smarter, not harder. I feel like kind of Scrooge McDuck, said work smarter, not harder. But I want to show you some of the ways if you're exploring prompt engineering, if you're exploring LLMs like ChatGPT and stuff like that, ways for it to help you professionally and personally, and also how to improve the actual methods to searches. I'm going to focus on ChatGPT. However, this will work for Google Gemini or if you're using Copilot. A lot of the stuff I use is very generic. It's just I'm trying to be open-minded to anybody who's using an LLM for this process. Let me there we are. All right, so as an overview, what we're going to do is I'm going to just really do a quick little foundational knowledge, just a little intro to what a large language model is, what it's doing when it's actually, going and answering your queries. Develop prompt customization. All of us come from different disciplines. We have different needs when it comes to our scholarly work, from our professional work. I want to really give you kind of like the steps to really improve your prompts moving forward. So this way you can customize it to what you need. So this way it saves you time. And I'll also tell you ways in which you really probably shouldn't use it or shouldn't trust it 100% because, I actually will say this, AI can be very moody. It depends on, its bandwidth, what it's at, if it's at capacity. Sometimes I feel like it can have a mood. And sometimes I've actually had to, stop using it because it wasn't being as productive as I think it could be. So I just gave it a timeout. So just, it's funny to think that way, but it really is. I once did a prompt that took 4 days for it to complete, and it was very easy as just an experiment to tinker with. So I almost treat it like I would treat like an assistant. Just, sometimes good days, bad days, sometimes it works and doesn't work. But I'd like to show you a formula, a way that'll make it a little bit more productive and maybe efficient for you. Um, so this way you can enhance your workflows, your productivity, encourage creativity and problem solving. It's fun because, although I will say that it's not a great creative writer, it is a great framer. So just like, if you think about building a house, you have to have a good foundation. I will not trust it to install like a sink. I will not trust it to, put up a wall. I won't trust it with even my drywall, but it is good with putting up frames. So it can sometimes organize things and prepare things for then you to come in, swoop in and make it even better. So it's a good way to like summarize, to prepare and I'll show you a way how to tap into that. We're going to talk a little bit about ethical AI practice, but not a great deal because I think we're all wrestling with the fact that AI is here. It's not going anywhere. However, ways to we can use it ethically and morally, and what we can do to also prevent from issues with bias and just skewed information and just also the hallucinations because it's still I'm still finding it hallucinates quite a bit. And also I'll get you to do some hands-on applying. So for ChatGPT, you typically can go out and you can find something for free. It's usually an older version, or you can find something for free out there. So let me go ahead into just explaining what it's doing with all this data. So it's large language models. They're artificial intelligence systems, and they were designed to understand human, just like we understand how a computer programs, we understand it might be binary like zeros and ones. It's really become very good with understanding language, or at least understanding the patterns within language. And again, it's seeing language still as data points, but it's become pretty good because it has what they almost call like them They're 1.8 million one of these like little parameters. They're like, imagine if you have an old radio, they're like little knobs that you can turn. And it has all these different knobs that it turns as it's processing your input. So it's, and it was trained on a really massive amount of data. And it's also now being trained on more, to where the previous versions, like, three, was trained on like data before like 2021. This does tap into current web-based information. So we're not having as much time delay as we used to have. It can find pretty recent stuff now. So that's just a quick little thing. So it's out there. It's constantly going through and scrubbing and finding content that's in there in the open web. So I'm going to show you how to kind of work with actually using this to kind of hack the best prompt possible, because it's just like programming. You can do it a lot of different ways, but there's a formula to it to be successful in a quicker fashion instead of kind of going through tons and tons of iterations of what you're looking for, and then you're not quite getting what you want. There's a formula to your programming. Okay. So just a quick little thing. Here's kind of like the market. And again, this is kind of changing. As soon as I probably wrote this, things changed. But I also wanted to introduce you to some that you may not have heard of, because for every tool that you hear of, there's like 500 other tools out there, because we're really going through an AI tool boom. Everything from the apps that are on your phone that are recording your videos, to all the image generators that are now out there. This is something that is helpful for just kind of knowing really what the popular ones are out there. So we have ChatGPT 4. I used to call it 4.0 or 4, with the little O. It is a paid version. It's $20 a month. I do, full disclosure, I do pay for it. I pay for it with my money, so this way it's a tool that I use and I integrate into helping me be productive. When I came back from sabbatical and I was on as a chair, it's actually helping me to organize things to where I could do newsletters, I could do posts, I can kind of it's really is it helping me, because I think we're all kind of like really just we're very overwhelmed with all the work that we have to do. It is actually helping me to kind of help me balance some workflows. Um, so this way I can kind of manage a little bit better. So I am using ChatGPT 4.0, or whatever you want to call it, 4. Uh, you can typically go out and find something for free, like an older version of it. By all means, use that. It can handle pretty much a lot of the things that you might ask for, but when you pay for it, it gives you a lot more advantages. You can put attachments up into it. It'll actually generate images for you. And now you can actually even experiment with other versions that are coming out in the future. Um, you can even say, you know what, I just need the general chat GPT 4.0. They have another version where you can actually, it's much more of a critical thinker and problem solver. So that's kind of like a fun little nuance, but you can only use it a certain amount of times unless you want to pay even more, which I don't. So they're trying to tweak how they're offering these different LLMs. There's Gemini, which I use if ChatGPT is down. I'll go to Google's Gemini, which it's a little easier to get to. It's free. However, it's really about like text based. So, you can put text and images and audio and video in there, but that's really for the pro version. If I need something simple done and I don't have ChatGPT available to me, I can use that. Um, if you want something, now I have no problem with the interface, but some people might want something that's has a little bit more, is the best way to say it is, um, safer, secure. So there's Claude, that's more of an academic one. I've used it. It's free and it's simple to use. It'll get the work done. If you don't feel like paying money, it could take care of a lot of academic issues. It could take care of some things that you might want to do if you wanted to summarize something or do something in a very simple way. Claude might be the way to go. There's also Pi AI. So Pi AI actually says that it shows the highest level of emotional intelligence. So it rather it be a conversation than a back and forth with what it says is like an automaton. It's really about trying to have a conversation to try and find what you want. I've used it a couple times. It seems nice. It seems like a good LLM. Then there's Copilot, which is tied into Office 365 in some ways. I have used it for images and it worked well, but it's on a limited basis. It's probably the one I haven't used. I think I've used it once or twice, and that's all. So I've kind of giving you my disclosure of what I've used and what I've had experiences with. So just to kind of FY there, giving you a couple of the popular ones. Okay. So just like I said, like, programming with computers, you can program with prompts. So a prompt is what you actually input into ChatGPT. And a real good prompt for ChatGPT or other large language models follows a structured formula that enhances clarity, precision, and creativity in responses. So here's the formula to ensure a high quality result. So I want you to take into account role. I want you to take into account the task that you have to do. Sorry. Sorry, technical difficulty. Give me a second. One second. There we are. The context, as in what is the context of your prompt, and what you're trying to accomplish, the format, constraints, tone, and examples. So let me kind of dig into this. And again, this is going right by the handout I gave you. Um, so role. So assigning role to, sorry. Yep, Angela said, yeah, I'm sorry. Just Perplexity is another one. Okay, I haven't gotten a chance to use it yet, Perplexity, but I have heard a lot of things about it. And then there's a lot of different tools that are out there too, like Magic, was it Magic School Bus? I think it is School Bus. Ones I haven't gotten to play with yet, but yeah, there's so many different tools out there. So just answering the chat box real quick. Okay, so role. So assigning a role to the AI helps shape its response by defining its expertise knowledge level, and its perspective. This ensures that the output aligns with the intended audience tone and the depth of the information. So by specifying a role, you guide the intelligent agent to respond as if it were a subject matter expert or a creative thinker or a specialist or even a specific persona relevant to your needs. Okay, so why use a role? Because it provides better accuracy and contextual relevance. It mimics human expertise in a given field, and it can adjust the tone and depth of the response. So here's just, I know this is a couple good examples. I wanted to kind of show you some of the different roles you could prime your prompt with. And that is like, you could almost think about the default mode as being a general AI assistant, like, and it's going to give you a basic exclamation with a general overview. So like explain prompt engineering to a beginner. But then you can also adjust the role to help to formulate a better response. You could ask it to take on the role of an expert or to take on more of a creative role if you want to do like storytelling, to rewrite something or retell something. You could take on a technical role, a student-friendly role if you're, trying to give directions to students that are younger than, that are younger, or, you want it to be really approachable language that's, like maybe encouraging. Or you could do a perspective-based role, like if you were Socrates, you can answer this question in the form of a Socratic dialogue. And not that you have to not that you have to memorize all this, but here are a bunch of like other ways to kind of adjust roles. I know there's a lot. There's analytical observer, there's collaborative leader, charismatic like persuader. You really want to think about like how are you going to prime your prompt to kind of give you the best information possible. One second. Just thought I saw just somebody else did a prompt here. Hold on. Or Somebody did a box. All right, come on, come on. Where is my? There we are. One sec, sorry. It's my chat box. Where is my chat box? Okay, I got
Right.
everything.
I was just putting in the piece that you said about it's not Magic School Bus, it was Magic School. So I just put it in the
Oh,
chat.
thank
Don't
you.
worry
Sorry. My
about
right now I have like 50 windows open because I wanted to use Canva this time and not on a PowerPoint. So thank you. Okay, so let me get back to roles. So yeah, so I have all these different roles. And they are, again, you pick them for what you need. I've used it when I've wanted to summarize like an article. I'm like, take on the role of an academic or a scholar, and it does a very good job. Or if I just wanted to give me a quick summary, I don't want such a technical version. I would just say just for person, a non-tech, I'll ask, a non-technical role it'll actually do it, and it uses different language, it uses less jargon, it's fairly accurate. Come on, there we go. Okay, next is the task, defining what do you want it to do. Okay, so the task tells the AI exactly what action to perform, whether it's generating something or summarizing something, or comparing something, analyzing, creating, whatever it's asking you to do. So, a well-defined task ensures the AI produces useful, relevant, and structured responses, reducing vague or off-topic outputs. It reduces ambiguity and assists in a relevant, structured output. So, for instance, if you look, I've given you a couple examples of like some weak and some strong tasks. Like, tell me about prompt engineering. It's very vague, it's very general. However, if I give it a little bit more detail, explain prompt engineering in simple terms for university faculty focusing on how it improves AI generated outputs, that would be a much stronger task description, and it's going to produce a much better result. There's a few other ones there. You can also, and again, we're going to get into constraints and parameters a little bit more. But if you take a look, where you might say something, make it shorter, like if you do a research paper, and you're like, well, I wanted to write an abstract. You can make it, you can say, oh, summarize it short in a short manner, or you can actually say summarize this in 100 words, or do an executive summary, or do take this 650 word thing and make it into 500 words. It will do a fairly good job of it. And again, it's your writing, so you can shorten it. And I see as it starts off with yours, it's just helping you to finesse your language. So again, that helps with tasks. Helping to give it parameters and exactly what you want will assist you. So I also wanted to include some like pro tips. So be specific, clearly define what action you want. Use the verbs, the explain, the summarize, the analyze, the generate. Add key details too. If you could think of the audience or the format you want it developed in or the length, any of those things are going to really help you to produce a better output. Guide the AI with verbs like compare, contrast, rewrite, regenerate, explain, list, create a bullet list or something. And of course, avoid the vague language. It performs best when you have clear, concrete directions. So context, one of my favorite terms now is context is king. So context provides that essential background information that helps AI generate more precise and relevant responses. Without proper context, AI might produce a generic answer, but with a clear, and detailed background, it can also help to tailor a response that you exactly that you need. So types of context, you can obviously include the audience. Who is this response for? Is it for an educator? Is it for a student? Is it for an administrator? Heck, if we're in the middle stage, you could actually say the audience would be an accreditor, and it will actually take that into account, rather than it just being a general audience member. The purpose, why do you need this? Is it a lesson plan? Is it research? Is it a workshop? I'll be honest with you. I used AI to help to tailor and create and craft this prompt engineering workshop. It's no secret. And it's actually done a fairly good job of helping me to create it because, I gave it advice. I was like, I want a good formula that will help people to produce really valuable prompts that'll be in their field. Because what Madeline and Angela and Jane and everybody else needs is a lot different than what I would need if I'm writing a book or writing research or doing a summary. We have a lot of different scenarios, and context will help to generate a better output. Scope, are there any specific topics or focus areas? Seating, settings like will this be like in a classroom, a university? Will this be an online training? Think about also the setting. So this way, it might become important if you're doing, let's say, for instance, if you're helping to do a speech or if you're doing like a advertisement, you're going to want that information presented in a different way. So kind of giving a setting or where it will be can sometimes also help. So again, context is really important. So I wanted to provide a couple examples of like weak context or contextual prompts versus stronger ones. So for instance, explain prompt engineering. It's very weak, it's very general. You're going to get goodness knows what you'll get. However, if you use a stronger contextual prompt, like explain prompt engineering to university faculty who are new to AI, emphasizing how it can improve the quality of ChatGPT responses and research and lesson planning. So again, I added more context. Okay, I didn't just ask it to summarize an article. I said summarize this article in 200 words, keeping key arguments and this. So I really went into much more detail because I wanted to produce something more useful than something very general. And then, of course, give me discussion questions. That's just it could say, what's this book about? That's just, again, vague. Or it could go into details like you could help to prompt, like I want thought-provoking questions that are higher level, higher order thinking, questions. It'll actually produce more, deeper questions for you than simple recall or remembering or summarizing. So how to improve your context? Of course, mention the audience, specify the purpose. There's identify constraints. So if you have a limit of like 200, 250 words, or if you wanted to just say, I've also had good luck with like two or three paragraphs, because then it's not giving you a word count. It's really focusing on the ideas that it produces in those two or three paragraphs. And of course, the setting would be in a university level discussion, or if you're doing that, okay, this is a academic research area or something like that, or this is going to be a poster in public. It's going to be public facing. So doing things like that to try and really specify, I think will actually assist you with improving the context of your prompts and it'll give you a better output. So again, if some advanced context strategies, think about role plus task plus context combined. So here's more of a prompt that's kind of starting to take into account advanced contextual strategies. You are an instructional designer specializing in AI. Create a one-page guide for university faculty explaining how to craft better AI prompts. The guide should be concise, under 500 words, and include practical examples tailored to educators using AI for lesson planning and student feedback. So what this ended up doing is I used a similar prompt, not on student feedback or lesson planning. I used one to actually generate the handout I created for you. Okay, and then also context-based refinement examples. So provide three strategies. So also allow it to provide you with more options. So this way you can pick the one that you like, and then it can isolate what you want and get rid of what you don't. So this way you kind of chip away at prompts or ideas that you don't like, and you can kind of go into a deeper rabbit hole of what you do want. Format. I will say this, ChatGPT, a lot of LLMs they're really addicted to lists and bulleted lists. They like to just I think it's because they understand that we really want information kind of broken up into bite-sized chunks that we want to see it right there. Sometimes that's not how you want it. Sometimes you want it more of a narrative. So what I like to do is I like to tell what type of format I want it to be in. Lists provide 5 best practices for using AI in education. You could do step-by-step guides. So this way you could actually walk through. The handout I gave you is basically a step-by-step guide. And at the end, I even asked for, hey, produce a template for me. It's even produced a template for you too. So this way you can come in and kind of create your own prompts if you want bullet points or if you want tables. So I've had some fairly good luck with creating tables in Chat GPT, but sometimes getting them outside of the AI window into wherever you're bringing it to, just to understand you may have to do some formatting like magic to make it work right, but it will do it. Even if you ask for an APA formatted table, you're probably going to have to tweak it a little bit, but it will actually try its best to develop something. I almost wish you could take a screenshot of it, but you can't. So it will help you, but it's still not perfect. It did a fairly good template for this task. It loves to use icons now, I find. So you'll see that there's the little icons, there's little pencils, there's a little target, there's a little like money sign. When you see that a lot on social media, you can guarantee that that was created by ChatGPT or another LLM because now it's fallen in love with little icons. And again, templates, you could do pros and cons analysis, obviously. So all these different format options are in here. Come on. There we go. So some examples of some formats. So tell me about AI in education. It's so weak. If you do something a little stronger, like summarize 3 key benefits of AI in education, a bulleted list, it's going to produce a bulleted list for you. Or if you ask it to do a pair, 2 or 3 paragraphs, it'll do that for you. Or if it asks you to do a guide, it'll be more of like, it'll kind of do it into bite-sized chunks for you. Or if I wanted to compare something, it's going to usually make a chart for you. So this is an example of one that I created for, it's again, I put in for information in here. It helped to produce it. I was able to take some weak and strong examples. So this way I could demonstrate how you can kind of create formats in here. Again, for good structure when it comes to formatting, be clear about your desired format. Use specific words. If you can give it like quantitative if you can give it numbers or parameters, that'll be helpful. Um, Combine with other elements if you want it to be like a table format, then explain the table format in narrative form. You can do that. It will follow a progression. Um, Request multiple formats. Again, it will follow the progression for you. Combining format with other prompt elements. You are an AI consultant specializing in education. Create a workshop outline for university faculty on prompt engineering. Use a structured format with an introduction, 3 main learning objectives, hands-on activities, and a closing summary. So it will do that for you. Now, is there any creativity involved? Probably not. You're definitely but it's giving you a starting point. And it will allow you to kind of do a pivot if you want to do a presentation and then go into kind of like a plan for your training. It'll allow you to do that. At least will give you a framework for it. Is it perfect? No. Constraints. You know, it will. I find that sometimes, again, it'll give you much more quality and quantity. Sometimes it'll give you a lot of quantity and it'll be poor quality. I find providing constraints will actually assist it with getting the job done in the word count that you want it in, or the length that you want it in, or in this, kind of like the structure that you want it in. So if you're limiting to like a paragraph or 200 words, or you're writing an abstract, constraints can help you out a lot. It can definitely. I know that there's a couple fields when I do a research presentation at a conference where it's asking for something that's literally 50 words or 100 character count, something like that, which is like, if I had hair, I want to pull my hair out. But it's to the point now where actually you can take that and it does a fairly good job of, taking away things to where it will provide a good abstract or a good, limit. So the constraints can actually help you to perform something. If you have all these ideas, it can help you kind of fill in that bucket correctly. So again, for constraints, be clear with what you want. Keep this under 300 words. It will do that. Define complexity level. If you want it for a technical, if you want a technical report, you're not going to ask it to write it for a non-technical educator. You're going to pick the audience to write to. Exclude unnecessary information. Sometimes you don't need to understand everything. It just, to get the job done. So, take some of the stuff out because I find that if you put too much information in, you might have a contradiction and it's not going to produce what you want it to. Refine the AI style and tone if you're writing like casually or you want an engaging style or it's like almost like a blog. It'll produce something different than if it was like a research-based paper or if it was a grant, or if it's boilerplate for a middle states report, of that language. It can actually help you to develop that. But I would use that differently if I'm writing a newsletter for the School of Education students. And you can also use multiple constraints and it'll follow them. Just make sure they don't contradict each other. Um, if you want to avoid a lot of jargon, make sure you say avoid technical jargon unless you explain what it is or unless you define what the jargon is. So you could do that as well. Don't worry, the hands-on's coming soon, I promise. Tone. So tone's pretty critical, especially if if the public's seeing this or your colleagues are seeing this, you really want to isolate the proper tone. It's probably one of the very first things I mention before I even do a role, and I make sure to address what the tone will be. Um, you want it, most of the time you want it to be professional, even if it's an email. But if I'm organizing something with all my colleagues in the School of Education, it will probably be a different tone than if I was addressing the Notre Dame of Maryland University, the entire faculty, all students and stuff. It will definitely be a different tone. So you're going to really want to focus on what type of tone you want to do. If I'm doing like a keynote or something like that, or I'm doing just a fun something, and I want it to be humorous or playful, I can help it to give me jokes. One thing I've been trying to do is a lot of quotes for the newsletters I write. And what I do is I find the quotes myself, and then I'll ask AI to help me, not write it, help me come up with a good like contextual statement that'll I can then anchor to what the School of Education is currently going through. Like, if it's February, it's cold, it's wintertime, something to try and liven up the spirits. I actually use AI to go from my quote to, into the substance of my newsletter. So this way it's a very simple use of it. And I am kind of giving away my secret sauce. So, everybody on the call, just don't, just pretend I write that all. It helps out a lot. So tone is really important. Here's a couple things that you can take away when it comes to list. If I'm writing a newsletter, I want it to be kind of a little bit inspiring and motivational, but I also want it to be informative. You can also use multiple tones too. So this way you can make sure you kind of get across the mood that you really want to use, that you really want it to communicate in. So again, weak would be explain ChatGPT to educators. However, strong would be provide a well-researched academic explanation of ChatGPT for university faculty with references to its applications in education. Another strong one might be, again, if you want to do more conversational, would be explain ChatGPT to educators in a casual, easy to understand way. Or if you want it to be playful, again, write an exciting introduction to ChatGPT for teachers, making it fun and engaging with relatable classroom examples. And a lot of times they'll give you really silly prompts and stuff. Like, what can you do with used bubble gum? That's the type of stuff that it would come up with. And it's just making fun and making jokes and stuff. But it's again, makes people laugh. Silly, but it's again, it's engaging, it's playful. You can change that with the tone that you want it to be. Be explicit with your desired style. Make sure you match the tone for the audience. Okay, don't let it become a disconnect. And also, again, blend tones for balance. So, what I ended up doing is I took two prompts and I asked it to show the formula in a prompt that might work for me. Okay, so here it is. I'm assuming the role of an instructional designer. Okay, I'm an instructional designer specializing in AI and education. Okay, so create a one-page workshop guide on prompt engineering for university faculty. The guide should be structured with clear sections, including an introduction, key principles, hands-on activities, and a summary. Context, okay? Format the guide using bullet points with concise explanation under each heading. Format. Keep the total word count under 500 words. That's a constraint. Maintain an engaging yet professional tone, similar to faculty development materials. Again, tone. Follow this sample structure. And what you can do is a lot of times you can actually copy and paste an example in there and it will emulate the style, it'll emulate the word structure, it'll emulate the kind of like the how it delivers the message. And then there's another one, just again, a different role. Assume the role of a university communication officer, crafting messages to faculty development events. So this would almost be that advertisement, the email that I had Heather send out, or that Heather and I kind of planned out and discussed. And you can see that it's all broken up into a formula. So, just in case my ChatGPT went down, here's the prompt I used to actually create not only the handout, but the template that I'm providing for you online. So I said, hey, I want my workshop participants to have some hands-on brains-on time. So here is the template that it created. And again, it's not beautiful, but it worked, and it actually will help you to create a prompt. So what I want you to do right now is this. I'd like you to go ahead and take about 5 minutes to just generate a prompt. And I can leave this template up, or you can use the handout that I've given you, and I can even put the handout in Zoom if you need it. But go ahead and just take 5 or 10 minutes. Try to use the formula to see if it actually maybe improves the output that you're using, or if maybe you have a feeling with some iteration, with some, massaging of the prompt that'll actually get you what you want. See if it'll work for you. Let's see if I can find my. Okay, here's the handout. Where's my Zoom? Sorry, I'll put it back. There we are. Trying to get to my.
I see your handout has all these fun little illustrations with like the pencil and the pen. Did you like put it through something or you hand did all of that?
It did it all for me. I
And it
came
did
up.
it,
Go ahead.
oh, ChatGPT or one of the other.
No.
This must be with the paid subscription because I don't think the free will give you that.
No, it won't. So, I only came up with one symbol on my own, and that was the save. And you'll see at the very end, I say, you know what? You start just like you have a good document or a good resource. You start to save things in diaries or your notes section. I keep articles in like a section to where I want to read. If I have 10 minutes, I'll read something. What I've been doing is I've been collecting almost like a journal of really good prompts. And I'll give you a few at the end, so this way you can play with them. But I didn't want to give you like 50 different prompts and say, hey, this might be good for you, this might be good for you, because it might not be productive. What I find is people really craft their own prompts that are very useful for them. You can take that language and you can actually copy and paste it into like a text file or a Word document or a Google Doc or something. You can use it in the future. So that's what I've kind of started to develop that. Anyway, what I ended up doing is that's the only icon I created was a little disc. All the other ones were created by ChatGPT. Um, I believe in listen, I don't like paying for digital tools. I'd rather get them for free. However, when it comes to having a tool that's worth paying for, I will pay for this one. Because it gives you a lot more of an advantage over the free version. Again, I don't try and spend a lot of money on my tools or my resources. I try and get them somehow for free. In this instance, there's one or two tools that I will promise that I'll pay for. It'll probably be this one and eventually Zoom. So that's just my philosophy. I understand that it might not work for you. I get it. Thanks, Heather, for throwing that up on the in the chat box, by the way. Appreciate it. Yeah, so Jay Goble, I am a healthcare professional with expertise in educational leadership. Identify the five most common. That is absolutely like a way to, yep, to come up with that type of language and nuance where you're actually identifying the role, like the role that you're taking, and you can also even add it into the audience.
Right. I was actually trying to add more to it, but hit the wrong button, and there you go.
That's okay, and
Fingers.
that's yeah, and that's why I've kind of fallen in love with just using text edit. So this way, I find something I like. I've been trying to keep shells of things, like just taking all the little bits I don't need, but keeping the programmable language stems in to where I can put them in the future. So yeah, generate a 5-minute mindfulness activity. Yep, yep. Format the responsive script. And Angela, did you like it? Did it work okay?
It was way shorter than 5 minutes, um, but it is something that I could build on.
Yeah, it's like framing a house.
Yeah,
I'll trust it with framing a house, but I won't trust it to build the bathroom. I
right,
won't trust it to put a roof over my head.
right.
But it does a pretty good job of outlining things, formatting things, getting things started. So yeah, keep going. I'm loving hearing some of the prompts. I really want it to be more this to be more student centered to where it's useful for you, not for me. So I really wanted to help you all kind of do a workshop that's more hands-on. Um, let's see. I did have a few, I think, at the end of the document. And again, if you have the document, you can always download it from Zoom. I'm just gonna stop sharing for a second and just show you some of the ones that I've had some success in that it's done the job I really wanted it to do, and it's gotten kind of some serious results. So let me open up my AI prompt and share it with you. Hold on. Sorry, give me one sec. Stop sharing. Did I stop sharing? Okay, I think I did. Okay, so let me go to. It's not opening up very well. I may have to go to. Here it is. Okay. So let me go to put this in there. Here we go. Let me share. Share. Okay, let me get this paper back up here. Here we go. So here's the prompt engineering handout I wanted to give to you and show you some of the ones I've had luck with. Let's scroll to the end. Okay. So this last one, the bonus prompt to try at the very end, I called the vicious editing prompt. So what what I've done is, if let's say you produce something, I wanted to find something that if I had a student that really needed to kind of see the difference between a paper that they write and one that might pass a professional editor, I have them use this prompt. And I will say this, that it almost made me want to cry with my writing because it's very vicious, but it wasn't meant to hurt feelings, or it was meant to really show you how powerful these things can be, how almost, again, I said that they had dials, like you could craft this, you could do all these dials to change how things are done. And I start off with all of these different things right here to where I might take the same paper, I might scan it like 3 or 4 or 5 times. And what I'll find is the first time I put it in, it was a dry paper. It wasn't very creative. It was what I would consider over edited, which is a possibility. You almost take out everything. What I ended up having to do is I ended up taking some of these out and using some of these little elements to help improve a paper I would write. If I'm finding something that, if I have it something like, let's say for instance, I have something and I don't know if it's accurate, I'll actually say verify actual or factual accuracy. And if I have any doubt, I would actually say insert AQ for, author query. So that way I would actually go there and see it and find and validate if the information's correct. Um, I was playing with this and I was able to get some pretty good prompts that were pretty serious, but I had to take a lot of these out. I can keep the simple ones like spelling and punctuation. That's easy. You can keep that. Grammar and syntax, you can keep that. However, once you add too many of these buttons, it dries things out. So what I suggest you do is you take this, you use a couple that, you add some of this that might help you, like I want to keep cultural references. You may want to keep be culturally sensitive. You may want it to be include cohesion, unity. I like to do things that are the sentence structure. All these LLMs love to do the same length sentences. They're not always the same, but you can tell a lot of times the LLM will create something that is, every single sentence is like 10 to 12 words, or every single sentence is the same exact length. You want it to diversify its sentence length. You can ask it to change up its sentence structure for readability. So there's a lot of different ones of these little, I call them, like, again, knobs. There's a lot of these little parameters that you can kind of delete and make it really work for you. One that I also used, I didn't think I put it here. I didn't. I called it Depth GPT. So what I ended up doing is I wanted to see, and then this was an experiment and it never made any of my books. I wanted to see if I could use a prompt to write a little passage of the book that I'm working on. And I had some success. Now, again, it never made it into a rough draft. I took it down and I just basically analyzed it. And I have to say it wasn't bad, but it also was I was making an argument for something, very weak connections. I also found that when I looked up some things, when I looked up its references, some of it was there and some of it wasn't. So it still hallucinates pretty significantly, especially if you're asking it to make a lot of connections, or if you're trying to make an argument or a point. So my suggestion is, again, the frame of a house, it could do it, but then I need to come and check all the wood, all the drywall. I need to check it all because a lot of times it's producing some pretty outlandish stuff. Um, and it's icing on a disgusting tasting cake. So my suggestion is that you stick with your writing as a base and it help finesse it and do nuance. It's still not great with generating something, but with technical guides, it's pretty good. If I'm asking you to summarize like the tools of a computer, it would be great. But when it comes to, like, if I'm trying to get it to make arguments in a paper, it's still very much hit or miss. I think a lot of it depends on what's out there on the web for it to try and scrub. It may not always be perfect. All right, so I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna answer any questions, see if you have anything that you want to mention, whatever. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, or you know, or commiserate, whatever you like. Well, I'm gonna give you a back of. I'm gonna stop recording real quick.